Hello guys, today we will perform the third and final stage to complete our pinball game. We will add the last elements of the pinball machine and add sounds and score display. Without further ado, let's go. For the next object I'm gonna draw something again. So I'm gonna create a new image with dimensions suitable for the texture, and I'm going to use a shape, an ellipse. I'm going to use a very large brush. I'm just going to draw the outline. Actually, I think it can be something like this. And now let's select this part and create a gradient in there. Let it run from maybe from green to yellow, maybe a bit darker. Okay, something like this. And now let's set the bevel. Okay, I think this looks cool, and let's fill the inside with let's try this. So I'm gonna save this image and call it circle. Now let's go to the circle and make it into a sprite. And let's put it inside our pinball machine. Let's create a plane. And create a material for it. Apply the material to the plane. And now we're going to use a different shader. We're going to use a sprite shader for this. And now we can move the object in the proper position. Want them to be over here. Something like this. Oh, actually it should be on the other side. So if you hit this plane, if you we have a collider over here. So if you hit that, this circle should just flash. And that will give a nice effect if we have a lot of these circles in a line. So we're gonna attach a light to it. Let's disable it by default. Let's call this circle. I don't know what else to call it. And now if we collide with this, but we don't want to bump into this, we just want to let the ball roll over it. So then we're gonna set this as a trigger. So if you enable this, the physics engine will no longer take this into account, so you don't bounce off it, but you will just go through it, but it will trigger the event. So let's create another script. Call it circle. And attach it to our circle. So in this script we can create a the on trigger enter, and this will be called if the something collides with this circle. So now we should write some code to make that light burn. We will need to use a few variables. So let's create a float and call it light value, because this time we don't want to put light on and off, but we want to make it light up slowly and then also die out slowly. So that's different from the bumper. So I'm going to show you how to do that. First we will set that light value to something. Let's set it to a large value like 12,000. And then in the update function we will check if the value of the light is larger than 0. And as long as that's the case, we will do something. First we will change the value. We will decrease it by delta time times 20,000. This is just some values that you can tweak. So I'm not sure about this 20,000. We might change it later, but let's try with this value for now. And then we have two phases, let's say. The first phase is when the light is just getting brighter, and then the light dims again. This all happens very fast, but in any case we need to create the two phases in here. So we have that if statement. So if the light value is larger than 10,000, that's the first part. That's the first 2,000 of these values. And then we will make the light more intense very quickly. So we can refer to the light. We need to also create a variable for the light. You can just use get component because we have this script on the same object as the light. So we don't need to create a reference. It's gonna find this first light that's inside this object. So here's a script and it will find this light object. So now we can refer to it over here. We can say the light intensity we can set. We're gonna set it by the maximum value of 12,000 minus the light value. So this light value will go from the 12,000 to 10,000 in this phase. So from 12,000 to 10,000, and the intensity will then be 0, 12,000 minus 12,000, until 12,000 minus 10,000, and that's 2,000. So it will go from 0 to 2,000. Well, we want to have a little bit more intensity than that for the light. We want to have a maximum of like 10,000. So then we need to multiply this by 5. And then for the second phase, when the light is dying out, that's more easy. We can just set the light intensity to the light value. Because when it's 10,000 and it's decreasing, then it goes from 10,000 to finally 0. So let's check how this is working out. Yeah, that looks nice. Now let's create a lot more of these. Put them in a line. I think it's a little bit too much, this effect, so we will decrease the values by simply dividing everything by 2. Okay, I've tweaked it a little bit. I think now it looks really cool. The final object we're gonna add to our pinball game is some 3D model. Because we have a 3D game, we can use that to create some cool effects. I want to go with this character, and then I'm gonna choose an idle animation first. Let's take a happy idle, download it as a FBX for Unity. And then I want to have an animation for the falling, and you will be able to hit these characters, and then they will fall. So I'm gonna download that as well. Only this time I don't need the skin anymore because I already have it. Gonna create a new folder over here, call it animations, and I'm gonna copy the two new FBXs that I've downloaded from Mixamo over here. As you see, the character is all white now, so we need to extract the material and the textures, so I'm going to create folders for that. And now let's extract the materials. We need to set the textures of these materials. So this is the hair, so I've extracted the hair, so okay, so now our character looks nice. We want to rotate it. And now we should create an animator class for it. And here we have the base layer, where we'll have the idle animation. and we'll have another layer, call it fall, and then we'll have that sweep fall. So if we go to that sweep fall, we still need to rig it as humanoid. And let's first do it for this one. We can create an avatar from this model because we have a model inside this FBX. So you can see the animation is working properly. This animation should be looping. And then for the fall animation, we also need to rig it. But we're going to use the avatar that we just extracted. Okay, that's working. Probably need to play it a little bit faster, but we can do that later. We're going to create a script for this fellow as well. So let's call it person. Now we're also gonna attach the animator to it. Oh, we already have an animator, but we need to set the controller. And we're gonna add the person script. And also we need a collider, of course. So we're going to use a capsule collider because it's faster than a mesh collider and it's suitable for this character. I think this is about right. Now for the person script, we want to refer to that animator. And because it's attached also to this same game object as the script, we can say animator is getComponentAnimator. Now we can use the onTriggerEnter function again. And we're gonna have we're gonna need a variable here. Let's call it falling. Let's call it time left falling. And in the onTriggerEnter, we're gonna set that to, let's say 4. That will be 4 seconds. So now in the update function we need to do something with that time. So if time left falling is larger than 0, then we should decrease it with the time delta time, and as soon as it's the time of the falling has expired, we will first make sure that we set it exactly to 0. And we will set the animator layer. The layer of the falling layer, so that's layer 1. So if you take a look at the animator, over here we have 2 layers. This is layer 0 and this is layer 1. What we will do is that we will play the animation of the falling, and we will set that layer to 1, and that will override this base layer that contains the idle animation. So then we will see the falling thing, and once the falling time is passed, then we will set it back to 0. So in the on trigger enter, we need to set the animation layer to 1, and also we want to set to play the animation from the beginning. This animation we will call fall, and we will start it from the beginning. So then I should call this fall instead of sweep fall, so it matches the code. I think that's about it. One thing we may want to do is the animation may cause the object to move, the falling animation. So if that happens, we want to reset it to the original position. So that's just some safeguard to make sure the object is not moving away from its original position. So we can set it at the start, and then once the falling is over, we can set the position back to its origin. Okay, I think this is about it. Okay, so it's working. We see that the animation is playing and the people are falling when they are hit. So we're almost done with creating a basic pinball game, but we need to display the score, of course. So let's create a canvas. I'm going to call it canvas game. And I'm going to put a panel on it. And let's go to the canvas with Shift F. So this is our canvas with the panel on it. Let's make the panel something like this. Put it over here. And on that panel we will create a TextMesh Pro object. And let's call this text score. Let's set an example value. Let's use a lot of zeros. That's always in a pinball machine. You have a lot of you have a very high number, so that you have a high score. That's cool. So we're also going to import the TMP essentials over here. So we have a few more fonts to choose from. Let's also import the extras. And now let's choose a nice font for this pinball machine. I think this is nice. This is just the old style digital numbers. Let's set a gradient. Vertical gradient. Start with yellow at the top and red at the bottom. Now we can also set an outline to make it a bit more sharp, something like this. And I would like to set the panel color to black. And we can set the transparency, maybe not too transparent, so we can clearly see the score over here. Also, let's use auto size, so the text sizes with the larger screens. Yeah, that's basically it. I think we can position it a little bit like this and make the panel even smaller. And the panel we will attach to the upper left corner, but the text can just stay in the center of, because it's aligned to the panel, so it will be in the center of the panel. There's something wrong here. This is not my script. It's from the examples that I just imported. I think I'm just going to get rid of those. They are in the assets, TextMesh Pro, examples and extras. So I can delete this script folder. I don't think I will need it. It's not part of my project. So now the compile errors have gone and I can run the game again. We can see that if we resize the screen, the score stays in the upper left corner. So that's good. Actually, we also want to resize the canvas. Scale it with the screen size. So if you play it on a mobile, you'll get a different size for the canvas. So now you can see that if I make the screen smaller, the score also becomes less big, so it doesn't occupy the whole screen when we are on a mobile device. Okay, so let's add the code for the keeping track of the score. We can use an int for that. I want to do something funny. I don't want to store just the score value, but I will also keep track of another value that's lagging behind a little bit. That's just like in a real pinball machine. You don't immediately jump to the score, but it's increasing until it's to the value that it should be. And while we're at this function, also let's add this this line to set the physics gravity. If you remember, we set the physics over here to -50, but that's in the project settings. It's better to have them in code, because if you change something, we can see the changes in the repository. And also for other people who use this code, they don't need to care about the project settings on their own projects. They can just use this and it will work. So back to the score. We need a method. We will use a method called increase score, and we will set it with a certain amount. So that's a simple function we can call to increase the score. And we will set then the target score. And in the update function, we will create this part of the code. And what it does is, as long as the current score is lagging behind the real score, we will increase the current score. And as soon as it's higher, we will set it to that score, because it can go over it, because we use a certain increasing value over here. So this is just to make sure that we're never higher than the real score. But if you increase the score in this way, you can see that it will increase. And then we will also need a reference to the text. So TextMesh Pro GUI, and we will call it text score. And let's add the library for that. And now we can refer to that text score over here. So we can say text score dot text is score dot string, but we want to use current score over here, so we want to display that lagging value. And we want to use always like 8 zeros to display the value. So it won't show a single zero, but it will show all these zeros. That's just what a pinball machine does also usually. So yeah, so that's the code for this. And then we need to add the increasing of the score in the objects that we hit. So in the circle over here in the trigger enter, we will increase the score by 300. And when you hit the triple, you won't increase the score, because that already gives you extra balls. It doesn't need to give you score. But if you hit a bumper, we will also increase the score with 1500. And finally, when you hit a person, we will also increase the score by 250. So if you hit these or these or these, then you will the score will be increased. So if we save all this and we run the game again, we can see if it works. And yeah, you see that the score is now increasing, but it doesn't go there immediately. It slowly goes to that value that it should be. I'm going to use freesound.org. It's a great site to find nice sounds, and it's free. So we can play them, and we can select one that we like and then download it. Sometimes you need to edit them before you can use them in your game. I use Audacity a lot for that. For example, this sound that I downloaded. There's a lot of things in there, and for example, if I only want this sound, then I can do that by cutting out this part and this part. And now I get a sound like this, and I can then increase the volume, because we can see that these spikes are nowhere near the maximum of 1. So we can amplify it with this program as well. And at the end, if this is not very nice, you can use a fade out, for example. And then finally export the sound as a WAV file. I've selected some sounds that I like and put them in a folder called sound in my assets. Now I'm going to create a game object over here called sound. I'm going to select all the sounds and drag them over here, and I'll put them inside this sound. So now we have a reference to our sound inside our scene that we can use. You see that the play on awake is enabled. I want to disable that, so I select all the objects and disable them for them all at once. And there is one specific sound, the points, that I want to play looping. So once you start it, it will continue to play until I explicitly stop it. That's when the points are increasing. That can go on for a while, so we need to loop that. Now let's play the sounds in the scripts. Let's first start with the bumper. So that's going to be in the bumper script. I'm creating a variable for that. And we need to set it. We could create a reference like here and then attach the sound to the reference. But as we already have 4 of these bumpers inside the game, it's a bit of work to do that. Actually, we should have created a prefab for this, so then we could do it all at once. But now I'm going to use something else. I'm going to say sound bumper is game object dot find sound slash bumper, and from that game object I'm going to get the component audio source. So now we're actually searching the game object tree over here, and you will see that we have here sound and then bumper. So it will find this game object, and then it will find this audio source. So now we don't need to create a reference, we've searched it by code. The disadvantage of this is that if you ever change this name over here in the editor, then suddenly it will not work anymore because it's looking specifically for this name. So it's not really recommended to do it this way, but sometimes it's convenient to use this. So now we can play the sound over here, the same place where we increased the score. Let's go to the next one. Next up is the circle. Let's use the reference for this one. I start every sound with the name sound in the variables, so I can easily recognize them. It's usually, for me, it's more better to start with the name like sound than make this word sound at the back. So I don't use like circle sound and scream sound, but I use sound circle and sound scream. So I read from left to right, and then first I encounter the type and later on the specific name. So once we've added this reference, we can set it. And again, here we should have used a prefab for the circle, but now we need to select all of them. And fortunately, we can then set the reference all at once for all these game objects. So that's not that hard, but it's better to use a prefab anyway. And then, oh, we forgot to play the sound actually. In the on trigger enter, just like the score. And now the flipper. Create a reference for that as well. And attach it to the flipper script. And we play that on left and right flipper. Okay, something like this. And the lost ball, that's going to be on the ball script. When the ball is lost because it falls down over here, we have a sound for that. Because this ball script is not in the scene yet. It's on a prefab, because we created a prefab out of the ball. So we can't refer to any objects in the scene, so we can't attach them from the scene. But We can use the other technique that I showed you before, that we find this object in the scene tree. So game object.find. Let's check if that's correct. Lost ball it's called, not ball lost. So need to be really careful with that, using those hard-coded paths. So over here, when we lose the object, we're gonna play the sound. And then we have the points. That's an interesting one, because we need to play that one looping, as I told you. We're gonna attach it to the game script. Let's open the game script. When you score points, you will hear a sound, a very short sound, but it will be looping, so you will hear it ticking all the time, as long as the score is increasing. When the score is at its destiny point, then it will stop. So we want to play it when we increase the score. And we stop it when the score is at the destiny value, so when this is not the case. So in the else of that part, we can stop the sound. Almost done. We are going to the screen that we're gonna attach to the person. When we are falling and we have a collision, when we start falling, then we will play the sound. And then we have the spring. Just copy this. We need to play that when we shoot, when we press the space bar. And the last one, the triple. The sound is 3. It's a person saying 3, so I call that 3 and not triple. Okay, so I think all the sounds are now called in the scripts. I forgot to set the reference to some of the objects of the sound objects, like this one for example. So the triple script, I created that reference, but I didn't set it. So after I've fixed all of these references, it should work. Yeah, you can hear all the sounds. Okay, that's it. You now have your basic working pinball game that you can extend in endless ways. Thanks for watching and subscribe to this channel to stay tuned for more interesting videos.